This is the rest of the 22nd. Supposedly a lucky day. We'll see what happens. DUL 2268, a Michigan plate SUV, was parked in front of my house, and I thought Patty had another visitor. I snapped some pictures from inside my house, thinking he was sitting in the car, stalking me. And then I realized as I picked up leaves in the front yard that nobody was in the vehicle. I picked up the leaves near the curb to be inconspicuous and got his license plate number. The owner wheeled a small red baby carriage to the SUV. I don't know which house he was at when he returned, traveling west on Midgard. He fiddled at the vehicle, then went up Arvid's driveway and spoke some words. He then walked down the driveway with his load of something and walked toward Indianola and turned south. I suspect he stopped at the blue house on the corner, who is a friend of Arvid's. The incident seemed peculiar, so I wrote it down as one of the many events on Midgard Road. Dr. Yoon turned up the driveway when the man was walking down the driveway, so I can safely assume that the guest with the license plate was having a conversation with Arvid. I figure things out by deductive reasoning. Either things are or are not something. It's called the dichotomous key, and you can categorize something into its own separate elements and characteristics. That's how I was able to come up with all the information I have. Today, after the night that was occurring, I am a little bit more concerned than usual, because by now people are starting to find out things about the Gold Strike deal, which is a plan to help expose R&M. There is also an understanding of truth that I'm telling, and people are beginning to realize that too. There's a deep burning desire to keep liars and people that are silent safe. That means doing me harm. And all of this to try and make me move. That's where it all comes from. It's amazing. I've had the most incredible journey. And getting neighbors to cooperate has been the most challenging thing in the world. So I write about it. And all of my friends believe that I am mentally ill. Because that's what the police say. And the police say that because the doctors say that. The doctors say that because there's no police reports on file. So when I tell them I'm experiencing neighborhood harassment, there's no evidence of it. So they call it a delusional belief. That's a catchphrase. For years, my neighbors have thought I am mentally ill because that's what Patty said. Patty said what she said because the police said, so she was sure, I'm sure, to back up her words with a voice of authority. That's her favorite thing to do. That way she's not saying it. It's coming from the government. It's crazy how hard she's worked for something and can't be honest with me. That spells trouble. But I knew years ago that she couldn't be honest with me. This is not a new thing. And Arvid would lie too. I had one connection in the neighborhood who I thought was on my side until he lied to my face too. That was Jason Ferris. I found out just a couple months ago that Jason was responsible for the um, evaluation where I was, quote, witnessed in the front yard with a megaphone, accusing neighbors of doing things. Did not happen. I told the police over and over, the neighbors are lying to get me hospitalized. They didn't care. And I went. When you go in for an evaluation, that's a nice way of saying forced stay. There's no evaluation. I want to see the numbers from the hospitals around town. What percent that come in for evaluations get admitted? And what percent are let go? So here we are today, the 23rd of November. One more day before Thanksgiving. I think, or is that next week? I don't even know. Because all I'm trying to do is to get my freedom back and my rights restored. And it's a full-time job. Because there are people that don't want me to have that. So I have to work very hard every day to get back what should be guaranteed. The FBI has had 82 opportunities to intervene. I can't help that it's gotten to this level. It's the government's fault. Our government needs to learn to be a little more honest. It is big It is powerful. It is very wealthy. It is all those things. But one thing it is not is honest. And that is something I cannot tolerate. I can't stand dishonesty. I call it out everywhere I go with everybody. That hasn't worked so well since Ryan DeLaha was here. That's how I got a hot cup of coffee thrown at me from across my dining room. It hit the wall behind me where I was standing. It missed me by about 6-7 inches. That's who met with Bill. After I told him I was having a tough time with Bill and his wife. Ryan invited them into my house. I don't know what they did. I can guess. But then DeLaha texted months after he was evicted and didn't show up for the court date. If he had shown up for the court date, they probably would have thrown him in jail because he entered into a lease agreement with not his legal name. I didn't check his background before he moved in. I barely knew him. He acquired his name while living at my property, so I don't know who was actually in my house, but rumors are that he spent 5 years in prison in Michigan. For what, I don't know. The texts that he sent. One was, "Are you still living on Midgard Road?" The other one, "Did the plan work?" Unless he spoke with more than one neighbor, which might have been possible because I did hear him sobbing and crying the week before he was evicted out of the house. Probably said some sad story about how horrible of a person I am. I don't know what the people on Como think of me because I don't know any of them. It would be interesting if the police say that people over on Como know me. But the police don't talk to me about anything. They'd rather discriminate. So Bill was either scammed or was part of the scammer. I don't know. Maybe they spoke on the phone many times because I don't think Bill would be able to come up with an elaborate plan. Ryan DeLaha is too smart. He's a smart man. Too smart for his own good. I told Ryan DeLaha about the reward I was offering, which is a percent of profit of my journals for assistance, for the truth. And I asked, what was the plan that you came up with, Bill? I don't know who you're talking about. I said, yes, you do. The man who lives behind me that you invited into the house. He didn't respond. It was texting back and forth, and I actually took screenshots of the conversation and I made a video of it on YouTube, which you can go listen to, like so many other videos. So he missed the opportunity of a lifetime because my story is an incredible story and it's all true. And nobody believes it. That's going to change. A lot of people will start believing in things that don't have evidence to support it. Media has gotten us used to show me the proof. In the information age, it's so easy to hide the truth by making more stories about a lie. Then that way it's the majority opinion. And if the majority, because it's the majority of articles or stories. So people can be led to believe things that are not true very easily, scarily easily. And once you've created a minority opinion of the truth, it is very, very challenging to get people to be open-minded. People must be open-minded if we are ever going to learn truth. Everybody is so overwhelmed with information. It's because misinformation and information are allowed to exist side by side. So if you look something up, you see both. So then you have to deduce which story or which narrative is the correct one. I use other material or other sources. So if I can cross-reference the same information from different sources, that's a really good sign that I'm on the right track. I don't want to get another strike, so I won't exercise my freedom of speech about the COVID vaccine. America today is a world where rights have been trampled. It's a shame because it has been happening from the people who should be leading us. They have an obligation, an unwritten obligation, an expectation to lead the people. When you're led somewhere, you're brought somewhere by the hand. You're not shoved and pushed and kicked to the ground. I believe that our government can exist as an entity that has integrity instead of a bunch of lip service. For instance, the FBI, I got a picture of this. They were advertising that they stand up for constitutional rights. They defend the Constitution. You do? Can I see a case where you did that? Is it possible for you to show me the proof? My experience, people have relied on what came out of the mouth of voices of authority. And it has been impossible to get people to see truth. Because what the doctors and the police say is the same thing. And I'm the one telling something different. You would think that friendship, some that have been 30 years long, would mean something. No, they wanted to discriminate against drug use. So they didn't believe it. They told me everything I was experiencing was drug related. The destruction of my mouth. Oh, it's all drug related. You're coming up with an excuse. Why don't you just owe up to the fact that you did it yourself? Not true. So I have fought to have my experience validated because I'm an honest person, and to not be believed is its own type of hell. But the only people that can give me validity are people that have either harmed me in the past or have a different interest in mind and don't want me to be successful. So they choose not to help. Then there's a group that would like to help but are scared of what the government might do. I've been trying to encourage them to understand a simple truth. A gun is a legal weapon. You can purchase it, get a license. They did the same thing with this weapon, this surveillance program. They made it legal on paper. If I take that gun that's legal and shoot somebody with it, and they die, I'm in trouble because I just committed a crime. Invisible waves can do damage. It looks like space is full of nothing. There's a lot there. There's a ton. A lot of it is blocked by our magnetosphere, which we can't seem to get out of. It's like rubbing a balloon on your hair, sticking. The magnetosphere has two rings called the Van Allen belts. And extra cosmic radiation just clings right onto those donuts. So they're super, super charged. It's a miracle we got through them in 1969. I wonder why we haven't gone back since, or another country hasn't ever tried to pull it off. Over 50 years. We're supposedly going back soon. This should be interesting. I wonder what they will come up with. I'm very, very concerned about the allocation of funds to NASA, because there's a lot. It just doesn't make sense. And if money's going where I think it is, the fact that they're setting aside all this money for the moon trips, it's a very scary sign. The people, and when I say the people, I'm talking about the 95%. Because the top 5, they can take care of themselves. They don't need government. They're actually a threat to the government, and they strong arm the government, and they get the government to do things that it wants to do. If you work for government, you work for everybody. And somebody's voice, just because it's got money behind it, should never matter more. The beggar on the street deserves to be heard as much as a corporate tycoon. But in America, we don't listen today. We don't listen to what other people are saying. We barely remember the sentence said before. We have a bunch of dum-dums. Ignorance. Running around. And arrogant, too. They're happy about their ignorance. They're pleased that they don't know anything. I am a curious individual. So I want to know more about the world. And that's where we arrived at answers, because I was curious and I looked into things. I've got lots of answers. And amazingly, all of the pieces of the puzzle fit together like a glove. Nobody told me anything. With the neighborhood and with remote neural monitoring, both things, nobody said a word. Unless in the neighborhood they spoke accidentally and told on themselves, which happened a couple times. And I did get 911 transcripts, which were a big help. But I figure things out. I appreciate truth from other people. So I'm honest always. I hope some people are willing to rethink their thinking. Because without people's support, I'm extremely vulnerable. It's bad enough that the police ignore me completely. I don't feel safe in my own city. And it's not being paranoid or exhibiting a symptom of a mental illness. I'm honestly concerned. What would happen if something serious were to be done against me? I don't know. It wouldn't be good. I don't know what their beef is. But from another friend who had his car broken into and a known suspect, the report was filed. No investigation. Seems to be a common theme. It sucks to know that I don't matter. And it sucks even more that the truth doesn't matter to a lot of people. And if you maintain a belief that the truth does not matter, you're going to get more of the same, because we're currently living in a situation where all of society is existing in a delusion. They believe things that are not true. And their construct of their world around them and what they believe is all very connected to the lies that they believe. So I encourage you to help us get into the electromagnetic age, please, by believing first. You can look for doubt later. But when you first hear something, just pretend it is true and absorb the information first. Then you can go back and you can find as many faults as you want, or many doubts. You never would have learned to multiply if you weren't open-minded. So pretend like you're in school again. And you have to pay attention to learn something new. You can't just absent-mindedly think about it or say, that sounds crazy. You have to think. And in my journey to find truth, I had to think. I had to pay attention. And I did. I'm so happy. What I'm not happy about is other people's discrimination against me. It's been intense, and it's been from all sides for all sorts of different reasons. Because now I'm a quad minority, quadruple. I got 4 categories that I'm a part of. At first, I've been gay since and openly gay men since I was 20 years old. So that's a minority. Then, when I was taken into the hospital by my primary care physician, the disease of addiction was given to me, or I had acquired it. Found out that's not really the case, but it depends on what definition you go with. Then, neighbors taking advantage of that information decided to perform evaluation after evaluation after evaluation. What they were watching was not a crazy man. They were watching somebody being tortured in their head by people. And it's not a mental illness. So, then I was given another minority. I became part of 1% of the world population. Where's the pen? From a brain wave. They don't listen either. I don't know how this statistical data would look after 45 years of being in 99%. How I would suddenly switch to being 1% because I had never had a history of mental illness prior to neighbors doing all the shit. I had 1 hospitalization. My neighbors caused all the rest. So now I'm labeled as schizophrenic. And that's what all my neighbors believe is the problem. And they have discriminated against me for that. They're still trying to get me out of the neighborhood over drugs. Because they don't like somebody living near there that has a disease of addiction. They want to discriminate, which is illegal to do. It's been illegal for 30 years. The addict never, ever, 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 ever wins. Until now. I'll tell you something. When it comes to issues of privacy and the constitutional laws that are already on the books, those give precedence or priority over other state laws. For instance, it does not matter how convincing evidence might be. If procedure is not followed, like in issues of search and seizure, or due process, or privacy issues, if those laws are not followed, then it cannot be admissible in court. And this is something that the executive branch has been having a hairy conniption over for decades, probably. Well, he's got this. Why? Why did the judge let him go? So the executive branch has been given a gift of choosing punishment and delivering punishment to suspects or to people they investigate. It's way too much control. But the law has decided to try and take the law into their own hands using made up law. Isn't that crazy? So I am a fourth minority. I'm a targeted individual. And I don't want to be one for forever. And God said I won't be. He answered me one day. And I know that He's telling the truth. Because when I die, I know I will definitely have my own head back. So I decided to thank Him for that comforting thought. And I thought, maybe I can speed up that process, not death, but the time before I get myself back, my own privacy. So I honor His creation, us, as being 100% human, and defending what He's made. Because man should not be in a space that is only reserved for him. So, it's really, really important that we don't remove God from the world. Because right now, government wants to be everywhere, knowing everything. There's a pendulum. And I think it's stuck on one side. We need to get out some WD-40 and grease it up a little bit. Because things have swung so far that crazy things are happening in the world today. There's a great script of a play. It's called the Bible. And Revelations is the end. So that is the playbook that I believe our government has decided to create. All of it. That's a lot of effort. I know one thing. Things go a lot better when you cooperate and work together. But that doesn't exist in the world today. People are too afraid. People are too filled with hate. People are too selfish. I pray that God will win this fight. And it's only with His strength that I speak my mind and honestly share. Because if I can share my experience and it helps one individual not experience what I did, then I've done my job. As an educator, which is what I've done for 22 years. So I decided to take on teaching adults. It's the worst class I've ever taught. Everybody thinks they know everything. Mm-hmm. I hope people begin to learn. I'm going to keep saying the same things. It's not mental illness. It's truth. Have a good morning and a better day. Pay attention to what's going on around you. There's a whole world out there that you're too busy ignoring.